Okay, so this video that I'm putting out there is for Matt from Airplane Simulation Companies or Company. So I watched your video from Enigma and listened to it last night, your interview, and was highly impressed with everything you had to say. And I know in there you had mentioned if the community had any kind of feedback or any suggestions to the C-130, maybe something to add that you missed or haven't talked about to throw it up on your Discord channel. So I plan on throwing this video up there on Discord and out on the ED forums for you to take a listen to. Hopefully, probably be a little long-winded, but yeah, I just wanted to start out by saying thanks for going out on a limb with this one and making the C-130. I know years ago I've been with Eagle Dynamics since the day one, playing their Black Shark and before that Flaming Cliffs and everything. So yeah, huge supporter of Eagle Dynamics, and I've been following their thread for a while. And I remember them saying that years ago they would never do a cargo plane because nobody would want it, and it just wasn't in the cards. And then here we are today, and I remember them commenting on that same comment a while back when they decided to go with the C-130 and saying they had rethought it and thought this was a great idea. So yeah, I just appreciate someone finally taken up the challenge to do a high fidelity military cargo plane. And this one in particular is very near and dear to my heart. I've grown up around the thing since I was a kid here in Texas. And I'm 44, and I've been around military aviation my entire life. I've had family in the military, both on the Navy and the Army side, and continue to work with the military to this day. So definitely familiar with the platform and see it flying pretty much every week. So, but yeah, just going off your interview, um, we started flying your mod. We being me and a couple buddies of mine. We created a Vietnam experience into the jungle, and we started flying the C-130 mod and incorporating it into the multiplayer mission we had created, which we put out there for the rest of the DCS community. And in your interview, you hit it on the head. What you were looking for in the module or in the mod in the early days is exactly what we were looking for in Into the Jungle was more of a logistics role to add additional functionality and roles to somebody maybe who's wanting to do something that's a lot less combat oriented but still has that combat feeling and that sense of or that requirement for others to protect and defend and allow them to do their mission. So we started off by trying to, and it was a real pain in the ass, trying to script the FARPs we created on the map, being able to script cargo drops and we dabbled with troop insertions, which was very difficult to get the troops to do anything. Pretty much, I won't go off in the weeds, but everything you mentioned in the interview is exactly why we brought it to our mission and exactly why myself and a few others are personally fired up to get this in our hands here soon. So, but yeah, I'll throw a few links in this video so you can check out what we were doing with your mod a while back. But unfortunately, just because it hasn't been supported, which I get, and the complications we were having with having to script everything, unfortunately, we wound up removing it because it was becoming a bigger headache than it was an enjoyment to try to keep it running since we relatively had a mod heavy mission. So, but there were a few things you said in the interview that I found very interesting, and the first one was mentioning that ED essentially. I think the big question we had when I heard the C-130 was coming out, as well as my buddies that are flying with me, is there's no logistics and supply chain in DCS. They incorporated the hangars and the warehouses and stuff to where you mentioned in the interview, which I've messed with specifically for this mission we were working with, but it's kind of where it ended. And I think the first big question was, this is going to be great having a C-130 in there, but when the hell is ED going to have the time or the bandwidth or the personnel to flesh out supply chain, logistics, moving equipment, moving gear, moving stuff from one base to another, resupplying FARPs, so on and so forth. And what I found very interesting in your video was you said that Edie pretty much hands you the keys to the car and says, go make what you want. You have the tools. The tools are more than competent and capable of doing it. Uh, go make the magic happen, then bring it to us, and we'll approve or disapprove. So that really sparked some interest in making this video for you and some suggestions I'm going to give you here in a minute, because it really it really made me think about the, going into the first person walk around and appreciating going that extra mile with what you and the company did with incorporating that. So again, you said it in the interview, and I've said this over and over with the boys. Walking around your aircraft, there's so much work that goes into the level of detail with the Apache, the Chinook, the Hornet, the Viper, all the modules that are now released in DCS, that it really breaks that authenticity and that feeling of being around the aircraft, being a part of it, using it for what it's utilized for and its intended purposes. Like being able to experience the external level of detail, walking around, seeing all the hard work that goes into the undercarriage and the pylons and the markings and so on and so forth. It just kills it when you go to an F2 view, or you try to create a special view to look at it. So, you guys going out on a limb and finally doing this first person thing, really, I'm really fired up about it. Now, I know there's probably going to be some shit talk as soon as I push this video out, because people are going to be like, you don't even have it in your hands yet. You don't know if it's going to be good. And again, just based on what I've seen, the interview, the trailer, the teaser trailers, everything that's out there already. I saw somebody actually flying at I think it was last night or the night before, in a video that you commented on. I was super impressed. The only thing I really hope that you guys were able to pull off, me and the boys only fly in VR, and pulling off the first person, walking around, the interior of the aircraft, the exterior, having that first person body to go with the VR, I think is essential, so you don't break that immersion. I don't know if you have it or not. I haven't really seen anything that says it's there. But I think that's definitely something that for us who play in VR, that one, the aircraft and the experience support VR, but also that y'all have worked on. I'm sure that there's a actual first person body included with the VR support when you're walking around in the back. I've seen the pilots. I know they're there, but yeah. So my first experience with VR in the C-130 was in your mod, actually, and I won't forget the first time I flew the mod in VR. I was flying over the NTTR map, and I remember I put it on autopilot. I dropped the ramp as I was going down the strip, and I stood up in my room and I tried walking to the back of the ramp, and because the size of the aircraft was done so well in the mod and there was a wall in the way, I couldn't get to the ramp. I kind of had to finagle jump into the back seat there and walking as close as I could to the ramp. But you guys have crushed it, man, even in the mod. And I know it's going to be 100 times, 1,000 times better in the module and VR. I think it's very underrated, the first person experience. It doesn't get everybody's juices flowing as much as some, but you know it just I'm really fired up about that, and really hope that it turns out as good as y'all presented it. But yeah, so the cargo and logistics role in DCS, I feel like, has been severely underrated and is extremely needed for a dynamic campaign. Eagle Dynamics has touched on this, right, with the supply roles that they're going to be incorporating into the dynamic campaign. There's not a ton out there on what they're doing with that. But I really feel like the C-130 is a lot more than a cargo plane that y'all have done. Like, y'all are really setting the foundation for the future of DCS from a multitude of perspectives. In my personal opinion, my humble opinion, and this is coming from a guy who's been in the military, who's worked around the military aircraft, who continues to work around them. And I know that while the fighter jets are awesome, and I love flying them, the helos, everything, I've already seen comments of people out there who are fired up that there's finally an aircraft coming to DCS that is a combat role, has a combat role and functionality to it, but it's not a fighter, it's not a bomber. And lo and behold, I've said this shit before. Like, it is going to bring the MSFS community out. You mentioned it in your interview. I fly Microsoft Flight Sim just to cruise around because of the whole world rendered technology is kind of like a soothing thing, right? Just to get in and do some low level stuff over New Guinea or somewhere cool. But the flight model shit, right? Like, I don't want to. I'm not going to get off in the weeds shit talking Microsoft Flight Sim, but you know, you even mentioned it. Bar none, DCS pulls off flight model by far better than any flight sim out there. And not a lot of people admit it, but I knew they'd come running as soon as an aircraft came out uh, where you could use nav aids and VOR and everything that comes along with a more civilian-ish aircraft. And I've seen the comments already coming from Microsoft Flight Sim. Can't wait for this to get out day one buy, which I've purchased it myself already. So yeah, I think you guys really hit a point that Eagle Dynamics needs to cover. And what I really appreciate is that Eagle Dynamics, from at least from what you said in the interview, gave you the tools, the opportunity to really set the foundation for supply and logistics for DCS, and it sounds like that's what you're going to be running with, and hopefully, because they don't have the bandwidth, the manpower, and that's not really the direction they're focusing on, they're going to allow you guys to really flesh that out. And from everything you've shown us so far, it looks like you boys are spot on, man. I'm pretty fired up about it. Personally, we'll be using it in our Vietnam experience and being able to use it for FARPs and resupplying bases and whatnot. Hopefully, if all the mods are still supported. So, but yeah, I guess what I'd like to do for suggestions for the current version of the C-130 you have right now. Personally, I spent some time in the Navy and have some friends and multiple communities throughout the military. And something that I haven't seen, I saw in the pre-release information, you said something about special operations, but I'll start off with boat insertions and extractions, and then whether it's MARSOC, SEAL, SF. It seems like you guys have covered the first person aspect. Now, I again haven't played it, but it seems like you guys are pretty fired up with what y'all have accomplished, and you've pulled off the feat of walking around inside and outside. So I think what would be super cool is if you could start incorporating from a rudimentary perspective. Eagle Dynamics has talked about doing a first person shooter down the road. I won't get off in the weeds on that. I don't think there's time for it. However, I really feel like the DCS C-130 could also play a significant role in setting the foundation for that, because you are the first ones who have conquered the first person, walk around the aircraft, walk around the external. And to me, this is going to become a foundational requirement for like the Huey, the Chinook, troop transports, getting in and out of aircraft, even just getting inside the fighters and exiting the fighters. I mean, that's already been talked about. But what I would like to see is, from a maritime perspective, and this probably down the road because it's another bit of technology that's not quite there, but being able to deploy ribs, out of the back of the boat, or having your SEALs or MARSOC, your maritime boys jumping and doing water jumps. I think that would be super cool. I've tied some videos in that have been playing in the background, just clips that I found online that I kind of spliced together, and just kind of given a demonstration, real world demonstration purpose. None of my videos, but not that I really have videos, but they're not my videos. So just stuff I found for reference sake out of the back of the C-130 that I think would be extremely cool, even from an AI perspective, being able to deploy the boats and incorporate maybe some new AI troops. And I feel like this would be essential for the C-130, right? Hopefully y'all have some sort of troop deployment. The mod tried to pull it off. I think it did a pretty good job of actually deploying the troops, but Once they hit the ground, it was kind of shit, right? There was a lot of scripting issues and trouble getting it to work and attack and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, the next thing, the next suggestion I have, outside of like maritime deployments and insertions, is going into insertion extraction from the desert. So in Afghanistan, a lot of special forces guys, and it's very difficult to find a video out there of this. I've seen the videos. I was able to find this one that's playing in the background on YouTube, and they're not actually demonstrating per se what I would like to see, but the Hummers, the ATVs and stuff, when they would do insertion extractions in Afghanistan, uh, they would have these unincorporated roads or runways like you see in the video, where the C-130s landed in a desert, and they keep doing a slow roll, and you see the trucks in the video. Uh, they don't show them getting onto the ramp, but I have seen this. This was a method used for Special Operations Command to insert an extractor in Afghanistan and Iraq, which is put her down in the desert, drop the ramp, and they roll out the back. The bird takes off, and the boys are deployed. They go do their gig, right? And then they've also done extractions the same way. C-130 drops down, drops the ramp. They drive right up inside the aircraft as it's still rolling, and then up the ramp and off they go. And this video really just demonstrates the aircraft landing in that environment and some of the vehicles driving alongside it. But that would be super cool if that was incorporated at some point into the C-130. It's just another, we've got Afghanistan, we've got Iraq now, and all the desert maps, and I think it'd be a very unique experience to pull off in DCS if you could utilize your C-130 to do insertion extractions that way. Now, of course, it would take modeling vehicles the correct way, and again, this goes back to you really setting the foundation, like airplane simulation companies setting the foundation for future content for DCS. I really feel like you kind of hold the keys right now to an area of DCS world that can go hand in hand with your C-130, that is very applicable to its role and responsibility during the Afghanistan and Iraq war, and that would allow y'all to model and do some really unique stuff along with the aircraft. So the last suggestion I had, and this bounces kind of back to the first person experience. This last video, I believe this was the Marines. It was another video I found online. They're doing a halo jump, and I'm sure the C-130 is notorious for special operations insertions. Again, MARSOC, SEAL, SF, Delta, Dev Group, so on and so forth. But we always see it in movies. We always see these video clips where the ramp drops at 22,000 feet. They got the O2 mask on. They're chalked up. They're geared up. Nods are on. And they go out at sunset or whatever, dusk or dawn, the cool guy shots. This particular scene here where they've got the strobes on, I just think this would be such a phenomenal thing to pull off in DCS world for the C-130. The main reason I put this video up there is you got a lot of really good examples of what the lighting is like after dark when they're jumping out the back here. So I'd really love to see the first person experience expanded upon with the C-130 to include, I'm not saying necessarily go right off the bat with all these special operations groups. I think what would be functional for the C-130 is in DCS to begin with, and I really think it would open the door to that first person experience, is JTAC. There's some really good videos out there. I don't think I have it on here. Actually, the desert one I think was JTAC, but your Air Force JTAC insertion extractions. If you created a JTAC team, right, just like you did your Loadmaster, and let's say you had, I don't know, 4-6 dudes in the back jocked up, and you've already started working on gear, right? Like you're working the supply, you're working the logistics. I in your interview, loading crates, unloading crates, having all the fine details and options at your fingertips to do supply and logistics. Well, that transitions right over to a first person if you want to do this simulation to real world standards, not Call of Duty bullshit, not Battlefield, not all that other crap that's out there that people quote unquote think is real. I've always felt like DCS is the premier platform, not only to simulate in a realistic environment ground combat, whether it's armor or first person, but also just like these aircraft do, right? Just like your C-130, these are all dedications to the men and women who have served, in my personal opinion, in the U.S. military and foreign military services. Like I grew up around this stuff. I know when certain aircraft have been released in DCS world, it took me right back to being a kid when my old man flew, and it really, to me, doing this right is not just a simulation or just a game. It's also to a degree, in a nerdy way, a tribute to those who have served and continue to serve and who have ultimately given that sacrifice. Because I've talked to people who have seen DCS and they're like from dudes that are on the carriers to pilots to I mean, you name it, and they're blown away at the authenticity and realism of DCS. So back to your C-130, I think what would be ideal for this aircraft, and I really think would open up another avenue for your company or others who may want to pursue it, is create, even if it was a separate module, right? Create a JTAC team. Do the research on the gear they have, their jumpsuits, their parachutes, the appropriate, authentic stuff that they would carry. I'm more familiar with naval special warfare than I am the Army and Air Force and Marines. But I think that a dedicated JTAC team that you could insert via the C-130 would be phenomenal if Eagle Dynamics picks up your platform that you've been able to create where you can walk in and out of the C-130 with the Loadmaster. I don't see why we can't start incorporating that same functionality into like the Chinook or the Huey, or even the HIP, right? I mean, it's Russian. You're not going to be loading American troops up per se, which they did do in Afghanistan. Special operations, I did see Naval Special Warfare did use HIPs in Afghanistan. But it would be super cool to see the C-130 fly out over a certain area, insert a JTAC team that could be a player, and to be able to do a halo jump or a hey-ho jump, or even a static out of your C-130 in first person in VR as a JTAC team. And let's say like it's a 4-man team, right? Everybody, multiplayer wise, you got 4 people that could tag up. You deploy an ATV or a DPV or whatever, and you jump out behind it in VR, and and you float down. Everybody gets in the vehicle, and you head out to go laze targets for the Vipers or the Hornets, and do this joint effort, this coordinated effort with the C-130, with the boys upstairs, your JTAC guys, and then when they lays a target and it's said and done, then the Chinooks come in, or the Hueys. Somebody's going to do a Black Hawk someday. They will. So I think that would be a really good introduction, honestly, into the first-person experience. The first bullshit I always hear is like, oh, we don't have we don't have buildings that you can go into. The ballistics are shit, so on and so forth. But again, your interview is very inspiring to me when you made it sound that Eagle Dynamics really allows you to just kind of go wild with making content for the game and then going over it with you and approving it. To me, just based off of what you've said in your interview, what I've seen in the trailer, you've proven to me that somebody can go out there, they can create a first-person experience, you can exit the aircraft, you're not attached to an object, and it's at the level of detail and authenticity that we would expect out of that. So why not take it a step further? Why not make a JTAC team with a laser designator and make it? I mean, the ground terrain right now, in my personal opinion, my humble opinion, is more than good enough for a first person environment to jump into, drive out there, designated target, and get picked up and taken back to the base. I mean, that's to me that's where it all starts, right? The later on down the road, then maybe you start incorporating, you know, all the other stuff, the Marines, the Army, the special operations guys, ground units. It opens the door. But I think airplane simulation company could really have the opportunity to open the door there and make a solid presentation that goes along with your aircraft. You're not really necessarily going off down the path of a different venture per se, but I'll go off in the weeds a little bit and then wrap this up. The first person experience, in my opinion, and this is probably a topic for another discussion. The idea of not being able to go enter a building, a hooch, a mud hut, a shit house, whatever, and go clear rooms and kill Hodge or whatever the objective is. Eagle Dynamics can't pull that off. And what kills me is if you look at the platform itself, DCS World, it's a module platform, right? Like you go buy whatever aircraft you want. If you don't like the aircraft, you don't buy it. And everything seems very specific or oriented to a certain time period, and the authenticity of that time period is hands down the best in the industry. Why would it be any different for a ground unit, right? I mean, to me, I think the best approach to a first-person experience in DCS world would be to start with a group of guys, a JTAC team, a SEAL team, SF team, and then have it period specific. Early 2000 SEALs were rocking different equipment back then than they are now. The old M4s with the ACOGs and the doctors on top, or the EOTechs versus the aim points, like all the little details of each unit. And there are so many subject matter experts out there that I'm sure would love to, like, just retired vets just sit down and spill the beans on what their uniforms were like, what the gear was, what the tactics were like, without deviating any kind of OPSEC or anything like that. Like, I really feel like this would be the path for a first person experience, is create a module that is a team of guys. Even you could have adversarial guys, but to conquer the aspect of not being able to clear a building, to me that's an easy fix. Like, you're not gonna, like, in no simulation are you gonna be running through every single building unless you're talking like Fallujah or some crazy shit like that. Like, to me, I would think that it would be more beneficial to create a handful of highly detailed and crafted houses, huts, whatever the target is, like Osama bin Laden's compound. Like, I don't know, that'd be another cool one. Like a high detailed, handcrafted experience where you can put that unit down, that house, that compound, that building on the map in the mission editor, and then that is your waypoint, and your first person module, whether it's SEAL Team, SF, JTAC, whatever, that you've purchased, you can use that and their equipment to go hit that house, and in that house you'll have highly detailed AI units or real, hostiles. Who knows? Someone playing as Hodge. I don't know, but again, this kind of falls back to supply and demand too, right? Your supply chain, making sure the firearms and the ammunition are delivered to the FARP or the base that the operators are working out of. Like, this all ties back into essentially dynamic campaign, cargo. It's all one intertwined machine, in my opinion, just like in real life. And I think if done right, I really think Airplane Simulation Company has really, from what I've seen so far, has started to establish that foundation. And as a company, why not run with that, right? You found a niche that I really feel somebody is going to pick up on and run with. In closing, I would say a couple things. So far, everything I've seen looks amazing, and I've already seen the comments attracting a wider audience. Eagle Dynamics has already said they're working a whole world rendered technology, like a whole world Earth technology, I'm not going to compare apples to apples with Microsoft Flight Simulator and get off in that. However, if Eagle Dynamics pulls this off and is very good, um, that's going to open up a lot, even from a combat perspective, military perspective. It's going to open up a lot of other avenues for even what this here, the C-130. Yeah, SAR, combat SAR, humanitarian aid, blah 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 blah, all the stuff that you can do with a cargo plane. But it's really going to open up that door for future cargo aircraft, for maybe even civilian aircraft. I know I'll get burned at the stake for saying that for DCS World because it's a combat simulator. I just don't see how we're making a whole world rendered technology and just going to have only military aircraft there. You said it in the interview. If you, hands down, if you look at the fidelity of the aircraft, the systems, the flight model, the performance, and how the aircraft flies in DCS world, if you were to open the door to those civilian, the people who make civilian aircraft and the requirements to develop an aircraft, a module, at the same fidelity as a military aircraft in a whole world rendered environment, you know Eagle Dynamics cash flow would go through the roof. Like I said, you guys have already proven it. I'm seeing comments where people are saying, I fly MSFS and I can't wait for this to come out. I'm going to come over to DCS because I don't want to fly combat. I want to do this. And yeah, you guys are crushing it, man. I mean, personally, I think y'all are opening the door to a wider audience. You know, I could be totally wrong about that, but I feel like I'm right. It's based off of what I've seen. And then, as a company, man, as a whole, I think it opens up future heavy aircraft. I hope y'all keep going down the path of doing this. I really think that this is going to be essential and a very fun thing to do in DCS world. Me personally, I'll be flying it. I got guys that'll either fly it with me or they'll fly, air support for me. But future aircraft from Big Vietnam, I love the old analog stuff. But it'd be awesome. See, I'll do like a C-7 Caribou. It's like the old Millennium Falcon of slow ass cargo planes. But man, that cockpit's awesome. How you climb up into it from inside. And it's another iconic cargo plane that has had operations spanning all over the world, from Vietnam to Australia. I mean, everywhere. Just a phenomenal aircraft and a hell of a lot of fun to fly. The C-123 Provider is another one. It's an awesome one. The C-119 Boxcar, C-47. I'm shocked nobody's done a C-47 yet for World War II. It's used in Vietnam. I mean, another great plane that would also probably wind up being a civilian aircraft. The C-119 and the obviously the C-47 and the C-130, they're all have attack variants as well, right? So there's opportunity there if you wanted to turn them into a combat platform. But I think there's a lot of really good options out there after the C-130, and if this sells well, like y'all have said, I know y'all have mentioned an AC-130 possibly if down the road. I think that one would absolutely just massacre in sales. I think it'd be a good thing. But yeah, I just really appreciate all the hard work you guys have done. I'm super fired up for this. I hope this hype video and some of the suggestions I've made don't fall on deaf ears. I really feel like there's things there that this module could capitalize on that hasn't seen the light of day in DCS. A couple of the big ones obviously are the insertion extraction methods. Dropping, doing airdrops over the sea. Troop insertions is a big one, whether it's first person or not. Pulling off that insertion via airdrops would be awesome. You'd also be doing the community a massive favor if you created some 3D models for some new 3D models for AI. I mean, what we've got now is shit. Wags, don't beat me up for this, but they've been showing for years now all the new AI coming out, and I can't help but wonder if we're getting one U.S. infantry guy, one Russian guy with an AK-47, and one Haji that looks the same, right? You guys or somebody out there could be making a pretty good chunk of change just developing some solid AI units for troops on both sides. I mean, for the C-130, I definitely would probably start out obviously with American or Allied, modern day Allied troops. But yeah, just some suggestions. I've dropped a few links in the video just so you can kind of see what me and the boys have been doing with your mod if you're interested, and how much fun we had with it while it was on there. Definitely be throwing up some videos when this releases and we drop it into the mission, and test it out. So again, just thank you and the team for doing such hard work on this, and super fired up to get it out and get it in our hands and start flying and learning it. So yeah, thanks for everything. Hopefully some of these suggestions work out.